Welcome back to the Baltimore Flockcast, the number one Ravens podcast in the world. Today on the docket, it's been a little bit. We went to the Ravens stadium practice. We went to training camp. Some time has passed, and I'm sorry. But on the docket today, we have the Micah Parsons possible trade, at least his request. Smelling salt ban that has now crippled the NFL. A little statement about training camp injuries, tidbits about each player, what we've seen in camp, at least me personally through the last week, what I saw as well at the training camp practice, a little thing about Lamar. I think that is it overall on the topics. Let's dive right into it. I'm going to apologize that this is also coming out the morning of our first preseason game. The next episode after this one will be the detailed breakdown on that preseason game of week 1. I'm sorry if that messes you up, but honestly, it's a free podcast. I'm not making money off of it, so what do you want from me? Let's get into it. I would start with the thing that everyone's most worried about, the smelling salt ban. If you guys are laughing and thinking this doesn't matter, you guys gotta wake up. Smelling salts are a lot more commonly used, I guess the better word to say, in the NFL, especially in professional sports. You don't know how many of these guys have been relying on these things for their whole entire career. For example, I know George Kittle, he sent out a tweet as soon as the ban went through saying that he was contemplating retirement. I know it's a joke, but you got to think. There's guys like him that have been, I think he's in the league for 9 years, let's just say that. But a guy that's used smelling salts for 9 years, every single time he gets on the field, for like every snap, maybe let's say, or every drive, man's, let's say, he's addicted, you know? People rely on that. That's going to change their career. The thing I wanted to bring up is you remember when, if you guys are baseball fans, when the MLB got rid of Adderall if players weren't like actually prescribed to it. And we had the thing that hit here pretty locally and hit hard was Chris Davis. Took the man's Adderall away and he couldn't play football anymore. I'm sorry. You know what I meant. Took Chris Davis's Adderall away and he couldn't play baseball anymore, rather. I'm sure he'd be a good football player as well. Dude looks like he's juiced up to the gills. But I would like to think that will probably happen in football as well. You take away the smelling salts, some players are not going to perform to the same level. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% guarantee, but you, like I was saying earlier, you really got to think if a player's been using this his whole entire career, was the thing that got him ready, whether if it was just a mental feeling, he thought that it got him like placebo effect, or if it actually did, it's going to have a pretty big impact on their career. You don't really see smelling salts being widely documented, obviously, because the NFL, it's kind of makes them look bad to put it out there. But you see pictures on social media. I mean, at least off the top of my head, I can't think of any Ravens that use it, but I'm sure there's quite a few. I guess we will see that throughout the year. That is something to keep in mind if you see any dip in talent this year. And I guess since George Kittle tweeted about it, don't draft him in fantasy this year. This guy doesn't have his fix. He's not going to be the same. I definitely think that will have pretty big impacts on players around the league. Definitely something to keep in mind for the season. This is probably the biggest news. Might as well tackle it early. We'll do more of the non-Ravens fun stuff before we get right into the camp news. Excuse the cough. Micah Parsons has demanded a trade from the Cowboys. It's a really sloppy, messy situation, per usual when you have an owner. Excuse my language. I know this is a friendly podcast, but he's a piece of shit and he's really old. What do you expect? But you also do see this a lot when a Cowboys player is going through their negotiation. Everything gets all stinky and up in the air. After a while, the deal ends up getting done and Jerry does cave. And I think, honestly, that is exactly what will happen here. Jerry will pay the man. Micah will get paid. But if he does not, and the relationship is too severed, like he was talking about in his tweet, he needs to be sent somewhere. The Ravens have been kicked around as one of those teams that could trade for Micah Parsons. Do I think it will happen personally? No. But when you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, anything is possible. And you're going to hear me say this time and time again, every single week. This dude he's a magnet. He brings in talent. People want to play with him because he's generational. He's one of one. I'm sorry for the glaze, but definitely deserved. I don't think we will get Micah Parsons, but what would the trade package look like if we did? I would say 2 first-round picks and a Dafe Owe. We've seen that kicked around on Twitter a lot. I kind of like it. I haven't really looked financially who would fit and how it would work, but definitely high draft picks, first-round picks, to be exact, are going to be involved. Owe's on a contract year. I know everyone loves Owe, but if you have the chance to get Micah Parsons, you're going to get him. But Mike is going to need to get crazy money after we trade for him. So you just got to think with all our young stars like Kyle Hamilton, Lamar needs to get paid again soon. Is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe though, because at the same time, you think last couple of years we just turned random old vets off the street into Pro Bowl pass rushers, or pretty darn close to it. So imagine if we just had a straight up dog. I mean, we do with Mike Green, but that's an argument for later. He's unproven. He's a rookie. But yeah, it is a interesting thing to look at. Like if we just had a straight dog coming off the edge, could be different. But no, I don't think we swing for the fences here on Micah. But I would not rule it out. I would say it's definitely not likely, but it's possible. I heard this little quote on a Alabama podcast. A shout out to them. I forget his name. I feel awful, but you know who you are. He was talking about, at least for Alabama, he said, training camp injuries are not to be stressed about. They come and go. It is football. He said, only worry about injuries that will affect us week 1. That's so simple but true. Everyone gets worried. Like, I know when I was at training camp for the practice at the castle, my friend and my cousin, they were freaking out. They're like, oh no, Zay Flowers isn't practicing. And honestly, I couldn't care less. And they're like, how are you so calm about this? Well, it's training camp. He probably is getting a day off. It ended up not being a day off. They said it was like a little slight injury that he had. Nothing serious, but why should I worry about it when these guys are literally just smashing into each other in the hot summer heat, that nasty humidity in Maryland for a couple weeks before the season starts? Of course they're going to get hurt. It's going to happen. You just got to worry about if the injury is going to affect us when we're actually playing football, when it matters. Like Isaiah Likely. I know we haven't had our podcast since he got hurt, but Isaiah Likely might be out until week 1 with a fracture in his foot. Not super reassuring when they say might be back for the start of the season. I'll be honest, I don't want to rush him back. I'm not saying that we don't need him, but we're a great team. We have depth, obviously, at tight end. We have Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league. We have Charlie Kolar, dude's a beast. And if we, I guess we wouldn't put him on IR, so we wouldn't get an extra roster spot. I was saying maybe a guy like, who's that guy? It's weird. We signed some dude, some white guy. His last name's Cup, and he's also a tight end. I forget his first name. I think it's, Baylor Cup. I don't see him making the team. But, don't want to rush him back. I mean, hell, give him his first 2 weeks off. Week 1, week 2 off. Have him come back week 3, so he's 100%. Don't rush things. This is coming from a Sixers fan, which we rush everything, and that's why Joel Embiid is a corpse of a human being now. Let him come back. Don't push it. We're one of the best teams in the league. We don't need to push him back to be on the field. So just breathe. Likely will be back eventually. Everything is going to be okay. Let's get into the camp news and the fun stuff, since we already talked about Likely getting hurt at camp. Falele has lost 20 pounds. Yes, there was the video that came out on Twitter of him just getting absolutely annihilated. I think by Travis Jones. It was just a straight bull rush. Okay, yeah. People are going to lose reps sometimes. I'll be honest. People don't want to hear this, but both of the training camp events that I went to, Lamar looked terrible. It happens. People look bad sometimes. I'm not saying Lamar looked terrible the whole time, but he had some moments. It's practice. They're going to have some bad reps. But Falele has lost 20 pounds. He's looking better on the field, looking faster. I know that video went kind of viral in the Ravens community, but take that with a grain of salt. The guy's not getting destroyed in training camp. Don't believe every little tiny thing you see. Flele's looking good and skinnier. Dude's still a huge monster, so that's pretty cool. One of my favorite things I noticed, I couldn't really tell when I went to the stadium practice because I came a little late since it was kind of hectic getting in, for being honest. But at least for the training camp at the castle, Kolar was the first man out on the field, and I think it was 10 minutes before anyone else came on the field. And keep in mind, that was the first practice after the Isaiah Likely injury. So I think that's pretty cool to put that in the memory bank there. So Likely gets hurt. We obviously need Kolar to take a big step up and fill his role for a couple weeks. And the dude, not to be cliche, but first man in, ready to go to work. That's absolutely something we love to see. Not saying pick up Kolar in fantasy or anything, but it's great to see that he genuinely cares. I know that sounds stupid too, but we're in a weird spot where there's a lot of athletes in professional sports, more than football, that just don't really care. They got their money. It doesn't matter. Prime example, Deshaun Watson. Not talking about the bad stuff he did, but think about it. Dude got paid $30 million a year, and now he does not care about football. That's why he sucks now. Well, part of the reason. So I got a dog hair in my mouth. It's gross. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen, at least for the first half of training camp, like the week and a half or first almost 2 weeks of training camp, Devontae Walker has been just about the best player on the field every single day. Turning heads, really impressing just about everyone with some crazy catches, absolutely building the rapport with Lamar and the other quarterbacks in the room like Cooper Rush and Devin Leary. This is pretty huge for Devontae. It makes me happy to see as well because dude only had one catch last year. Yes, it was for a touchdown, but we definitely need to see something out of him or else it kind of feels like tainted meat, for lack of better words. I don't know what other analogy to make there, but yeah, he's been really turning heads. This preseason, I would definitely expect him to keep that up. We're going to see Devontae just go absolutely nuts, hopefully, at least in our first game, which would be tonight when this episode comes out. He's excited to see what Devontae can do against a real defense, even if it's just preseason. We'll come back to Devontae in a second. Another note here, Sanusi Kane, when I went to the two practices, he was working with the linebackers, kind of more in a money backer role. Sanusi is a guy that's definitely on the bubble. So I think this is, definitely a way for him to try to make the team. But two, it's something we're being shown here that we're going to have some fun this year with our defense. We have so many DBs, just corners, for being honest. So think about all the fun stuff Pagano can help out with. Because if you guys didn't remember, Chuck Pagano is back, I think, as a defensive analyst or something. One of those weird titles, helping out the boys here with Zach, Coach Orr. But yeah, Sanusi Kane, interesting, but I like it. Him playing money backer. More players that have been really turning heads and wowing in training camp. Keaton Mitchell, man, I have been so impressed, especially coming off of an injury. I said it on here a couple episodes ago. I was worried about him coming off the injury. I really thought Rasheen Ali was going to take more of the shine from Keaton. That is definitely not the case so far. Keaton Mitchell is forcing himself onto the field. He's going to get some playing time this year. He's an absolute stud. Even just, returning kicks. He's doing everything. Running the ball, returning kicks, making catches out of the backfield. I am really excited to see what Keaton Mitchell can do this year for the Ravens. Because you look at our team, he's not a guy that pops in your head if you're a fan of another team. And you're like, oh, we're playing the Ravens this week. Who's going to mess us up? Probably Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark, of course, Lamar. Keaton Mitchell's not even a thought. So that's fun. He's going to be our little Swiss Army knife out of the backfield. And in my opinion, Keaton Mitchell has been the MVP so far of training camp. I know that's not a real award, but I'm giving it to him. But another guy that's definitely been up there for a dude that's just been killing it and balling out in training camp has been LeJontay Wester. Dude's been a stud so far, been really impressing people. I was getting really excited as well with most of Ravens Twitter But then I started to think and realize, like, man, every single offseason we kind of have this happen where like a late round pick receiver just goes crazy and then we think he's the next Jesus Christ cheese and rice, you know. No diss against LeJontay. I think you're a great player. I think hopefully it can work out for you. But we get so excited about these late round picks and then they don't turn out to be what we like want or expect right away and then we give up on them. I think that's I don't know why this happens every year to us. We can have guys that are late round picks show some talent and start to pop off in training camp and them not do much during the year. That's okay. You know, LeJontay is not going to be the number 2 receiver on this team. And that's whoever's expecting that, you're wild. But yeah, there's people out there that are thinking LeJontay is going to be up there with Zay now, which is crazy. But yeah, it feels like it's Tandon Doss all over again. He might have been one of the first one to start that. Or I guess maybe the worst one of them all was Marlon Brown. This dude had like the greatest rookie year of all time and then just died. Fell off the face of the earth, forgot how to play football. Not saying that'll happen with LeJontay, but man, I guess I've just been hurt too many times by these young rookie receivers for the Ravens. Yeah, we talked about Pagano earlier. Definitely amazing to see Chuck Pagano back with the Ravens. Oh, and I definitely hate spreading negativity or anything bad, especially about the Ravens, because, you know, I love the Ravens. I even got tatted on my arm here. But Devin Leary is god-awful. He is not good at football. I really thought Devin would step it up this year because, let's be honest, he's had some time. If he doesn't prove himself this year, he's not our QB2. He's not going to play in the NFL probably ever again. He'll be a P squad guy for like the rest of the year, probably somewhere else, and then go to the CFL or something. Like, this is the time. You got to show something now. And I'll be honest, every time I've seen him, he's been awful. So I guess that kind of wraps it up for the QB2 battle. Cooper Rush hasn't been really good either, but he's been decent. I hate to be that guy, but Devin Leary's been so bad that I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens cut him and just bring in any other quarterback. Like, I don't know where Anthony Brown is right now, but I'm sure he's a free agent because the Browns just got Tyler Huntley. So I'm sure Anthony Brown's out there chilling. Hell, anyone. It just doesn't make sense to me. I know it really doesn't matter for a backup quarterback because, to be honest, if Lamar goes down, we all go down. But would be a little bit more reassuring if we didn't have Devin Leary, a guy who's, just be honest, awful at football, at least at the moment, as our backup quarterback. Oh, and sorry I didn't include this in the beginning of the episode, but John Hoyland, our guy, he's been cut. Feels a little early. I know I told you guys that Hoyland and Tyler Loop would both be NFL kickers. I still believe in that. The Ravens have also said that John Hoyland was cut because they had to make roster space. John Hoyland is not off the table. He could be back. They are not rolling out Hoyland coming back to the Ravens, but this is obviously a sign that Tyler has definitely won the job. He's our starting kicker. So best wishes to John Hoyland in his career. I guarantee he's going to be another one of those Ravens kickers where we look back and be like, hold on, I remember that guy from Ravens training camp. Now he's the starting kicker for like the Saints or something, you know? Shout out Will Lutz once again. But Tyler Loop, ever since he's, I guess, taken over that starting role with having Hoyland being cut, I don't think he's missed a kick for at least till the point where this is being recorded. It's been like 3 or 4 practices, and he's going like 7 for 7 every single day. Dude's like hitting 60-yard field goals. So it's not like he's just taking short field goals. Man's really showing his leg off. So I'm pretty excited for Tyler Loop here. And I've heard a lot of fun things with Tyler, especially that stadium practice. Like when he hits his kicks, everyone in the stadium at the same time went like Loop, you know, like kind of like Heat back in the day. It's kind of fun to have like a unique cheer for a kicker. I've also heard Loop, there it is, a bunch of other dumb stuff as well. But it's kind of fun, you know. The only analogies we could have made with our old kicker's name is something probably is not very good to say because of the things he's been accused of. We're not going to talk about that, though. Sorry, children that are watching this. But all right, Loop, there it is. Tyler Loop is an absolute dog. Can't wait to see what he does in the preseason game tonight. This is something we tweeted, but I think it needs to be talked about on the podcast here with our closing notes. Don't exit out yet, guys. I know at least I do when I hear the podcast anchors. They say that it's the closing notes. I'm just about clocking out. But we don't have ads at the end, so you don't have to do that, guys. Lamar Jackson is 1,628 yards away from being the Ravens' all-time leading rusher. Wow. I had to sit back and let that sink in for a second. That is absolutely insane. There's going to be a moment that, I mean, not very soon, but let's say 2.5, 3 years to be fair, right? Let's say 3 years. There's going to be a moment where Lamar is our all-time leading rusher and pushing probably our all-time leading passer by then too. That is wild. And to think about all the good running backs that we've had in our history, especially Jamal Lewis, guy that ran for 2,000 yards one year. Lamar Jackson is that close to being the Ravens' all-time leading rusher. Man, say it a lot. I don't care. I will glaze him, as the kids say. He is truly generational, one of one. I am so happy to have that man as a quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. People want to say, anything bad about Lamar, but hey, who's your quarterback? Michael Penix, Falcons fan? Yeah, I'm talking about you, Pat. Hopefully you're still watching here, but thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Flockcast. If this is coming out Thursday morning, we have the game tonight. We'll have analysis on the next episode. We'll have that up pretty quick. I think I mentioned it in the beginning of the episode. I'll say it again. We're not going to have postcast for preseason games because you guys can wait. I don't think you really need the in-depth analysis 30 minutes after the game because it's preseason, let's be honest. But like, subscribe. I don't think I say that like ever, but please do. It definitely helps the show. Share it to all your friends. Really does help a lot. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week after the Ravens get a preseason W.